final preseason scrimmage for the Piedmont Wildcats. The new season begins next week. They took on the defending state champs tonight in Guthrie, and a lot of the same challenges that were there last week still existed this week, and there's still some room to improve before the Wildcats start a new season next weekend against Deer Creek. Hi, I'm Ben Felder, News Director of the Piedmont Citizen, and joining me is the Citizen Sports Editor, Ben Schuff. And Ben played under the bright lights in the big field at Langston University, was the site for this scrimmage, so kind of an exciting opportunity for the kids to play in a bigger venue. But that didn't stop from what the focus needed to be on the field. And what was that focus going into this scrimmage that you saw?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously last week against Kingfisher, after the scrimmage, Coach Church said there's a lot to work on. And after tonight's scrimmage, it appears to be that way, if not more so. I guess start offensively. The first two plays look great. They got Christian Foster, back at receiver, so that's obviously a huge gain anytime you get your top receiver back. The very first play on offense was they had the freshman Josh Hampton in there, shotgun, threw it to Foster. It was like a 5-yard pickup. And then 2 plays later, offensively, kind of went downhill when Foster suffered that injury.
Hampton,
excuse me. Yeah, Josh Hampton. Yeah, sorry. But there was a defensive end for Guthrie that kind of landed on top of him, and they rolled on the turf, and he was slow to get up. And then later on the sidelines, he's standing with his shoulder all wrapped up and nice and everything. So anytime you have a kid that's competing or possibly would be your starting quarterback go down before the season starts, that's obviously a huge loss.
Yeah, and we're not sure what the exact injury is. It was in the collar area. It did look good, definitely, and he was out for the rest of the night. You know, going into this week, Darius Burris, who's kind of been slated as the starting quarterback, he told us after the scrimmage that he had worked out at running back all week and not prepared at all for quarterback, and that he was kind of thrown in there. So it really wasn't much of a rhythm on offense, and that injury had a lot to do with it. But what did we see out of Darius when he was behind center tonight?
Well, like you said, I was kind of surprised when he told us after the scrimmage that he didn't practice at all.
Yeah.
I mean, for a guy that took a lot of snaps last week with the first team and then to not do anything, maybe that tells you that you know, they were ready to go ahead with this freshman and have him be the starting quarterback. That's obviously over with. So, like Coach Church said, you know, Darius is going to be the guy behind center moving forward. So, when he was out there, I thought, you know, I asked him, is he more comfortable rolling out? And he said yes, and he looks more comfortable. He had a few completions rolling out to his right, a couple to the tight ends. There was a couple plays that he threw deep balls to Foster that were, one of them in particular was a pretty iffy throw that ended up getting intercepted, just kind of a toss it up in the air jump ball type situation, and got intercepted. But obviously Darius will have a lot of work ahead of him if he didn't do any practicing this week, and they've got a week till
I'm sure he'll practice quarterback this week. Yeah. You know, it's interesting to me on the offense. Granted, we've only seen 2 scrimmages. We've seen some work in practice. I've seen an inter-squad scrimmage. I mean, this isn't OU or OSU, so we're not getting to see this team like every single day on film. But from our observations, I'm still trying to look for an identity on this offense a little bit, and there hasn't been one to emerge. And I know you don't necessarily want to tip your hand in scrimmages. I'm sure, you know, last week Deer Creek had some coaches at the scrimmage. I'm sure that might have been the case here. But I mean, what do you feel like the identity of this offense is? I mean, where are they what's gonna be their bread and butter?
You know, I think you mentioned part of it. It's a scrimmage. You're not going to tip their hand a lot.
Yeah.
But the other thing, you know, Coach Church mentioned was, you know, I asked him after the scrimmage, where do you feel this team is at? Are they ready for Deer Creek in a week? And he said, you know, the next couple of weeks are really going to tell. You know, you mentioned that the offense really never found a rhythm tonight, and if their starting quarterback goes down to the third play of the scrimmage and you have a kid go back there who didn't practice quarterback all week, you can't really expect a whole lot in terms of, you know, keeping things rolling on offense, picking up first downs, which I honestly don't recall Piedmont picking up a first down tonight.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, like Coach Church said, it'll be a few weeks till the offense gets clicking, or it'll take a few weeks before the offense gets clicking if Hampton is out for what seems foreseeable future.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and it's not to say that I'm not optimistic about the offense, because I think there's some reasons to feel confident about this offense. And let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Last week against Kingfisher, we saw some challenges, particularly in the secondary. We saw those same challenges tonight, maybe even more so.
Yeah, I guess the most alarming thing, you know, Coach Church mentioned that Guthrie is a whole different style offense. They're more option oriented. but despite that, there was a 3rd and 4 on the second offensive series that Guthrie ran that went for a 62-yard touchdown. And then the next series that Guthrie had on offense, they had plays of 20 yards, followed by a 4-yard play, 1-yard play, and then another 20-yard play. And by my count, they had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, they had 5 plays in the second and third series that went for at least 20 yards.
Yeah.
So that's alarming.
Yeah, I mean, and there was, Church after the scrimmage said that Kingfisher is more that vertical threat, and they go. I mean, Guthrie seemed to take throw the ball down the field as well. I mean, they had a lot of big plays right there. I mean, did you see any adjustments in the secondary tonight versus last week at all, or are we?
There were a few. We talked with Daryl Burns after the game with the linebackers, and he kind of talked about some of the adjustments that the linebacking court tried to make in terms of the secondary. They obviously do have work to be done. There was I think it was the second play that Guthrie had. They had I don't remember if it was a tight end or receiver came in motion. He came across the formation, ran like a corner route, and was wide open.
Yeah.
So there's definitely still holes to be filled in the secondary.
Yeah. Well, and Guthrie's a really good team. They're defending state champs. Sure. I mean, so it's not to be too alarming here. I mean, they're going up against a really good squad. Yeah. And this was a scrimmage that only lasted 15 minutes. So this was kind of a get in, see what you got, and then get out pretty quick kind of thing. So, it's still hard to tell a little bit about, what we have in this Wildcat team. But, we'll get our first real look next week as they travel to Deer Creek.
Yeah, so I think one of the positives, too, tonight, if you're Piedmont, you can pull out of it was, after the game, despite losing, one of or possibly your starting quarterback, Church was never really clear, but losing him and the defense didn't look too sharp. The guys still seemed relatively upbeat in the huddle that Church kind of formed after the game. So, yeah, I mean, it's not like they were walking around with their heads down and moping around the field. So it's obviously a positive. Yeah, a
lot of question marks, but there were last year too, and that ended up pretty well for the Wildcats. Well, continue to log on to PiedmontDaily.com all week. We'll be previewing the Deer Creek game as we get ready to kick off a new season. You can find our new weekly Audible podcast will be published on PiedmontDaily.com this Monday. For the Piedmont Citizen with Ben Schuff, I'm Ben Felder. Thanks for logging on.